guys, welcome back to the Unfiltered Political Lens, where we look beyond the headlines and examine the history, strategy, economics, and geopolitics shaping our world today. If you're new to the channel, thank you for joining us, and if you've been following our coverage, welcome back. Today's story is one of the most important international developments of 2026 because it has the potential to affect global security, oil prices, financial markets, military alliances, and diplomacy across multiple continents. I want you to stay with me until the very end because understanding what is happening today requires understanding more than 70 years of history. And once you see the complete picture, today's headline begins to make far more sense. Today's breaking news centers on renewed tension between the United States and Iran following reports of the additional military activity in the Persian Gulf, increased security concerns around commercial shipping, and the renewed diplomatic contacts after President Donald Trump said Iran had requested further negotiations while also declaring that the previous ceasefire was effectively over. These developments come after weeks of escalation military actions that have once again placed the Middle East at the center of global attention. While diplomacy has not completely collapsed, the military operations continue alongside negotiations and creating one of the most dangerous and unpredictable geopolitical environments in recent years. Around the world, governments, military commanders, intelligence agencies, and financial markets are all watching closely because everyone understands that the next few days can shape the direction of the region for years to come. To understand why today's events matter so much, we first need to step back in time to 1953. That year, Iran democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh was removed from power in a coup backed by the British and American intelligence services. After he nationalized Iran's oil industry, from the perspective of Western governments, the coup helped protect strategic interests during the Cold War. But for many Iranians, it became a lasting symbol of the foreign interference in their country's sovereignty. The memory of that event continues to influence Iranian political thinking today and remains one of the foundational reasons for deep mistrust between Tehran and Washington, D.C. Over the next quarter century, Iran became one of America's closest allies in the Middle East. Under the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, massive American military assistance and economic investment, intelligence cooperation, and modernization projects had transformed Iran into one of the region's strongest military powers. Yet beneath the modernization, dissatisfaction was growing among religious leaders. Political dissidents and many ordinary citizens who viewed the Shah's government as increasingly authoritarian. Those growing frustrations eventually erupted into the Iranian Revolution of 1979, permanently changing the political landscape of the Middle East. The revolution had brought Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini to power and established the Islamic Republic of Iran. Only months later, the Iranian students seized the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and held 52 American diplomats hostage for 444 days. The hostage crisis shocked the American public and fundamentally reshaped U.S.-Iran relations for generations. And since that moment, the diplomatic relations between the two nations have remained largely frozen with periods of limited communication, interrupted by decades of sanctions, military confrontations, and regional cooperation. Throughout the 1980s, Iran had fought a devastating 8-year war with neighboring Iraq after Saddam Hussein had launched an invasion hoping to exploit the instability following the revolution. The conflict had killed hundreds of thousands of people, devastated the infrastructure, and convinced Iranian military planners that they could never again depend solely on conventional military power. But instead, Iran gradually invested in ballistic missiles, drones, asymmetric naval tactics, cyber capabilities, and partnerships with non state armed groups across the region. Those investments now form the backbone of Iran's modern national security strategy and explain much of its military behavior today. One of the organizations that emerged as central to the strategy is the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC as we know it. Unlike Iran's regular armed forces, the IRGC is responsible not only for defending the country, but also for protecting Iranian influence beyond its borders. Over the past several decades, it has developed missile forces, naval units, drone programs, cyber capabilities, and relationships with armed groups in countries including Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. From Iran's perspective, these capabilities provide strategic depth and deterrence, while the United States and several allies argue they contribute to the regional instability in the region. At the center of today's crisis is the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most strategically important waterways on Earth. And although only about 21 miles wide, this geography explains why the United States has maintained a significant military presence in the Gulf for decades. The United States Fifth Fleet, headquartered in Bahrain, operates alongside carrier strike groups, destroyers, submarines, and surveillance aircraft in regional air bases to help secure the maritime trade routes and support allies. The American officials describe these developments as essential for maintaining our freedom of navigation and deterring the attacks on commercial shipping. Iran, however, views many of these developments as a direct security challenge near its borders while creating an enduring strategic rivalry. Iran's naval doctrine differs dramatically as well from one that the United States. Rather than attempting to match the U.S. Navy ship for ship, Iran has invested heavily in asymmetric tactics, which are designed to complicate operations in the confined waters of the Persian Gulf. These include fast attack craft, naval mines, coastal anti-ship missiles, batteries, and drones, and swarming tactics intended to overwhelm large vessels. Our military analysts have long warned that even a relatively small confrontation in these waters could quickly escalate because of the proximity of opposing forces. And another major source of tension has been Iran's nuclear program. Iranian officials maintain that their nuclear activities are intended for peaceful civilian purposes, including energy production and scientific research, while many Western governments in Israel have expressed concerns that the program could provide Iran with the capability to produce nuclear weapons if political leaders choose to do so. The international inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency have monitored the aspects of Iran's nuclear program for years, while the negotiations have repeatedly sought to limit enrichment activities in exchange for sanctions relief. Those negotiations have experienced periods of progress and a breakdown, contributing to the current atmosphere of uncertainty. Israel's role in this broader strategic picture is impossible to ignore. Successive Israeli governments have argued that preventing Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon is a core national security objective. Israel's leaders have repeatedly stated that they reserve the right to act if they believe diplomatic efforts are insufficient to address the perceived threat. These long-standing concerns have shaped Israel's defense planning for decades and continue to influence regional security calculations today. And today's renewed tensions did not emerge in isolation. They are part of a broader pattern involving maritime security incidents, sanctions, cyber operations, proxy conflicts, and military signaling that has evolved over many years. The reports of attacks on commercial shipping and additional military operations and heightened security alerts have once again drawn global attention to the Gulf. At the same time, diplomatic contacts continue illustrating that confrontation and negotiations are occurring simultaneously. The economic stakes could hardly be higher. The oil traders closely monitor every development because even the possibility of supply disruptions can influence global energy prices. The shipping companies must decide whether to reroute the vessels or delay departures or pay significantly higher insurance premiums to operate in potentially dangerous waters. Those additional costs eventually ripple through the transportation, manufacturing, and agriculture and aviation consumer goods, and ultimately household budgets around the world. But beyond the oil markets, the financial markets also react quickly to geopolitical uncertainty. Investors often move money into assets they perceive to be safer during periods of heightened international tensions. While companies dependent on the stable energy supplies reassesses business risks, central banks also monitor these developments because sustained increases in energy prices can complicate the efforts to manage inflation and economic growth. What begins as a regional security crisis can therefore evolve into global economic challenges. Moving Discussing diplomatically speaking, numerous governments are working to prevent further escalation. For instance, Qatar and Oman have historically served as important intermediaries between Washington and Tehran. The facilities in direct communication when direct talks become politically difficult. European governments continue urging the restraints while emphasizing freedom of navigation and its regional stability. China, India, Japan, and South Korea are also watching carefully because their economies depend heavily on uninterrupted energy insights from the Gulf. Imports, not insights. Also, Russia likewise has important interests in the outcome of the tensions. Moscow has developed closer ties with Tehran in recent years while also remaining a major energy exporter itself. Any prolonged disruption to Gulf oil supplies could reshape global energy markets in ways that affect Russia's economic and strategic interests. This also illustrates why today's developments extend well beyond the Middle East and involve the broader international balance of power. Looking ahead, analysts generally describe several possible scenarios. One is renewed diplomatic progress that reduces the tensions and restores greater confidence in commercial shipping. Another involves a prolonged period of limited military confrontation marked by occasional strikes, maritime incidents, cyber operations, and proxy activity without expanding into a full-scale war. The most serious scenario would involve a major miscalculation that pulls even additional regional and international actors into a broader conflict, although that remains only one possible outcome rather than certainty. History teaches us that major geopolitical turning points often develop gradually rather than through one dramatic event. Small military incidents, diplomatic breakthroughs, economic pressures, intelligence assessments, and political decisions can collectively alter the course of history over time. And this is why governments across the world are monitoring every new development so closely. The decisions made in the coming days and the weeks could influence regional security, international trade, global energy markets, and diplomatic relations for years to come. As always, we'll continue following every verified development as this story unfolds, separating the confirmed facts from speculation and providing a historical and strategic context that helps make sense of the headlines. If you found today's deep dive valuable, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who want thoughtful, fact-based analysis of the world's events. Thank you for tuning into the Unfiltered Political Lens. And remember that understanding history often provides the clearest lens for understanding today's breaking news. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next episode. And as always, peace. We'll see you in the next one.